The views expressed on the following broadcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. The dialogue on this show should not be considered as medical, psychiatric, or professional advice and is delivered only as personal opinions from the host, co-host, and guest. KHLT Recovery Broadcasting is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here's your host, the Monty Man.
Well, greetings, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Speaker Monday here in the year 2015. Happy New Year all month long. I told you I was going to wish you a Happy New Year all through the month of January here on Speaker Monday. I'm so glad that you have joined us. We got a great speaker. Alan D. from the UK is speaking this week at a big book study. I think you're going to like this. You don't have to be in Cocaine Anonymous. This is where he's speaking at. You can be in Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery, whatever you are. You're going to enjoy this. Now, I will tell you, he's right. He's very serious. He's funny. He's entertaining, but he's very serious. And he's also a tad colorful. But that's okay, because I got to tell you, he speaks the truth. And the message is loud and clear. Hey, listen, Speaker Monday is sponsored exclusively by Origins Recovery Centers. You know, some of you are still suffering with addiction. You may be listening to the show, or you may know somebody who is suffering from addiction. Well, listen, let me tell you, the folks at Origins, they totally get it. As men and women who have recovered from addictions themselves, they are all too familiar with the daily battles you or your loved one faces. At Origins Recovery Centers, they have infused the latest medical research with wisdom from their own personal experiences to create a holistic approach to total recovery. I know what you're thinking. Monty, I can't afford it. The right kind of treatment is so expensive. Well, I got some great news for you. Origins will work with you on this, whether or not you have insurance. Nothing is more expensive than continuing to drink or use. Here's the number I would like you to call. Ready? 1-844-843-8935. That's 1-844-843-8935. You can also visit their website at www.originsrecovery.com. They are simply the gold standard in drug and alcohol recovery and treatment. Please call them today. All right. Without further ado, from the UK is Alan D. speaking at Cocaine Anonymous at the Big Book Study. You're going to love it, I promise. Here's Alan.
We of Cocaine Anonymous are more than thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of men and women who have recovered from a home, thank you, Rob. Thank you. From a hopeless state of mind and body, to show other addicts precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. It's the main purpose of this book. It's great to be sat here in what I believe to be the greatest literature-based meeting of Cocaine Anonymous in the whole fellowship. Come on! Let's not miss the obvious. And let's not miss what this is about. This is a celebration of a meeting that's been going for 9 years on the back of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. On the back of the big book, again and again and again. The study and re-study of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, love the big book or not, the deal is, this is our programme. This is where it comes from. This is our basic text. And I was lucky enough to stumble into this meeting right early when a little bunch of really nutty, off-key CA members had already started it going. Brian's the one there. Because see, it was guys like that got this ready for me when I got here. I think they knew I was coming. And I think they knew what I needed. And what I needed was a really, really clear interpretation of our 12 steps in our programme. And I got that through this big book, through good sponsorship, and through this meeting, through the study of the big book. And it's been a while since I've drank or used, and I still study the big book. I still get involved in big book study meetings, and trust me when I say I've read it a couple of times. I know what's in it. But this is important. So, a little bit about me. Do you know what? I kind of used to make apologies for my friends. I've got a lot of friends in here who've heard my story loads of times, so it's going to be nothing new. You know what's coming. You know you're going to get bored. Put up with it as much as you can and leave quietly if it gets too much. That's all I ask. Because I've only got one story. I remember the first time I used, the first time I drank, and I remember the last time. And that's not a requirement. It's not even important. It makes absolutely no difference. It just happens. I mean, I forgot most of the stuff in the middle, but I remembered the beginning and I remembered the end. And the beginning for me was Christmas. My dad was come from the northeast, good drinking man all his life. Not quite sure if he was one of us or not. If he was, he functioned really well, but good Geordie drinking guy. And I remember him filling me up with sherry one Christmas, and I kind of passed out when The Wizard of Oz was on. I remember, and when I come to, there was a programme on the telly called Sale of the Century. So from Norwich, it's the Quiz of the Week, and I remember coming to that, and feeling horrific, like everything nasty. But somewhere in the back of me going, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. And I did. And I did for years. And the last time I used, I was in one of Her Majesty's hotels over on the Isle of Wight, a little place called Camp Hill. And someone's taxi? Don't mind anymore. And I was over in Camp Hill, and my cellmate had got. I was doing gear. I was doing a lot of heroin by then. A lot. I wasn't doing a lot of heroin. I was doing pissy little amounts of heroin. And my cellmate had got this prison Joey. And for those of you who've never been in a prison, because that ain't a requirement either. It's just I was a crap criminal and always ended up in there. A prison bag of heroin bears absolutely no resemblance to a street bag of heroin. In any way. In size, in shape, in substance. They're two totally different beasts. But anyway, he got this little prison bag of heroin, and he got his little bit of foil, bit of Kit Kat wrapper, and he smoothed it all out, and with an angle, and he laced it, and he got some prison butter, and he smeared some butter over it. And got it like a mirror, dazzling. And he put this little prison bag on there, and it kind of went. And if you caught it in the right light, you'd just see it. And he went like that, and he did a line, and I thought, he's my man. Because we're buddies, because we've been in the same cell for 3 days now. He's going to give me a line in a minute. He did another line, and I thought, he's building up to it. He did another line. He did another line. He did another line. And then it was gone. And my little heart sank. And then, in what I can only describe as a fit of deranged generosity, he handed me the tube. I knew I loved this man. And I unravelled it very gently, And I looked at it, and I got it by the light, and I could see a bit of colour just in the middle of it. And I thought, yeah. And I got his little taper, and I got it all ready, and I lit it, and I got over it like that. And I touched a bit of flame to it. And in a flash of butter and nasal hair, it was over. It was over. And that was like my using and drinking for years and years and years. When I first come here and you guys used to tell me your stories, I used to think, I'd still be out there. It sounds amazing. That wasn't my experience. It was pretty, at its very best, at its peak, it was mediocre. And the rest of it was not quite so good. I started off with drink. I grew up in the West Country. And again, no apologies if you've heard it too many times, go. Because I have. And where I grew up, there was a lot of cider farms in that area. And there was one particular cider farm in a place called Slimbridge, very close to where I lived. And it was run by, I kid you not, it was run by a guy who went by the name of Wobbly Bob. And for 50 pence, you could buy a gallon of Wobbly Bob's Widowmaker. And I learned at a really early age that when I put Wobbly Bob's Widowmaker into my body, several things happened. Some of them weren't so pleasant, and anybody that's drank real rough cider will know what I mean. You get to make split-second decision skills really quickly, because things happen quick. Because, see, rough cider ain't got no business in the human body, and it'll do everything and anything it can to get out. And it does. But another thing Wobbly Bob's Widowmaker used to do for me, and I didn't know what it was then, but I heard about it when I come here. It gave me what you guys called a sense of ease and comfort. I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew when I was full of Wobbly Bob's Widowmaker, it was all right. And all right was good enough. And I went for years doing that. With one thing or another. And the way it happened with me is anybody that was near me started to suffer as a result of me and as a result of my behaviours. And it didn't really make any difference who it was or how much I loved them. I have a real issue with people who talk about people like me and say, well, you wouldn't have done that if you loved them, or you wouldn't have done that if you cared about them. I understand why they say it, but they're idiots. See, they don't understand the condition that I suffer from, the illness that I suffer from. Nobody understood it until I come here. Until I come to Cocaine Anonymous and started telling you guys, and instead of walking out the room and turning away and avoiding me, you started smiling at me and started nodding and started going, yeah, we get that. That's why I know I'm in the right place. That's why I ain't going nowhere. That's why I've discovered the easier, softer option is in the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous and not out there. There ain't a single goddamn person I've come across who's gone out there, relapsed and come back and went, Dobbo, do you know what? It was amazing out there. The gear has got incredible. The bags are massive. And the crack, my God. It's never happened. This is where it's at. So people would kind of, they just suffered, irrespective of how much I loved them. And I couldn't do anything about it. And I knew it was wrong. My dear old Nan brought me up. She's been gone a long time now, loved her with all my heart. Believe me when I say, when I was climbing through the window in her old people's home to steal her money from under her mattress, I knew it was wrong. There wasn't a quiet voice in the back of my head going, Al, this is a bad idea. There was a screaming voice in the front of my head going, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I was compelled to do whatever was necessary to get my next drink and my next drug. And that kind of went on and on and on and on. And I tried a job. I didn't take to work very well. I realised quite soon that wasn't for me. I tried a wife. She didn't take to me very well. She quickly realised he's not for me. Children, the stuff. And again and again and again. See, I didn't know about selfishness, self-centeredness. I didn't know about an illness that was in me and in my very core and centred in myself. I knew nothing about this till I come here and you guys told me. So I went on and on and on. And I would get up. A day for me would be I'd get up. I would walk 14 miles to the nearest town. I would waddle into the local Tesco's or Asda or somewhere like that. 7.5, 8 stone. I would waddle out bandy-legged, 13.5 stone, with bacon and cheese secreted in places where God never intended bacon and cheese to be. I would mooch off out. I would score a bag. I would do it. I would go back in and do another cheese and bacon run. I would come back. I would get another bag. I would walk 14 miles back home. I would do the bag and save a spoon wash for the morning. I would try and go to bed. I would get back up at 2 o'clock in the morning and do the spoon wash. I would go back to bed. And the following day I would get up and I would do it again. And again. And again. And this just went on and on. And I didn't know you were here. I didn't know about Cocaine Anonymous. I didn't know about the 12 steps. I kind of knew God was kicking about, and I've always been pretty cool with him, but we were kind of singing off a different sheet, because every time I prayed to him, I still ended up in jail. And every time I prayed to him, the gear was still shit. And every time I prayed to him, a man who said, "Yeah, man, I'll soon come," didn't. And I'd wait 15 minutes. I hope he's all right. I spend another 10p of his tenner. I'm down to £9.50 now. He'd be going, "I can see you now." Thinking, I can't see him. I would hate him with a passion till the second he turned up. "How you doing? The missus all right? The kids all right?" Can't remember their names, but I'm sure he's got some. "Oh, great to see you. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, nice." And this sort of thing used to happen a lot with me as well. I would get the gear in my hand. After hours of rattling, after hours of feeling terrible, I would get the gear in my hand and I would feel better. Instantly. It's not even in my system. It's not even out the wrapper. And I'm starting to feel better. All of a sudden, I got a spring in my step. And off I go. And again, my using, typical of my using, typical. I'd scurry. By this time, everyone and anyone who got near me has had the sense to get out of Dodge, has self-preservation's cut in, and they're gone. And thank God they had the sense to do that. And I'm kind of living on the streets. I'm down the road in Southampton, and I've just scored, and off I scuttle, and I'll run off to my favourite block of flats, and down into the stairwell in the bottom, and again, so many times, get my nice little hit kit out, in my little pot like that, and lay it all out, and OCD'd to here, right up there, and I'd rip open the little wrap. Now, I'm not the sharpest tool in the box, nor do I profess to be, but I do have a tiny degree of sense, occasionally. And as I crack it open, I think, smells a bit like oxtail soup, that does. Still, never mind, because there's no way in the world it can be, because my man, who I've now known for 3 whole days, wouldn't do that to me. Not me. He knows who I am. I put it on the spoon and pack it out with a bit of citric. Some water in there. Start cooking it. And as I'm cooking this gear, the smell of oxtail soup's getting stronger and stronger. I'm starting to think of crispy croutons and stuff like that, subliminal going on. But I'm thinking, it's all right because it's good gear, because it's nice and thick. Up here for thinking, down here for dancing. And I pull it in very carefully. Like that. The reality for me is I'm stood in a stairwell in a block of flats in the middle of St Mary's in Southampton with my pants round my ankles, injecting fucking oxtail soup into my groin and still thinking it'll be all right. And still thinking, well, it probably is oxtail soup, but he must have had to cut it with that. He mustn't have had anything else. There'll be gear in it. Just pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. And those were the better days. Those were the ones when I was kind of, yeah, do you know, I'm doing all right here. It ain't that bad. The number of times I said to myself, it ain't that bad. And I would waddle back in. I would waddle back into the town. And again, those who've heard it, please, I don't apologise. Go or go like that. I would waddle back into town. I love the blues. I love blues music. And there's an old blues guitarist called Robert Johnson who was phenomenal in blues music, phenomenal. And he was a real wreckhead, and he was an alcoholic, and he was a druggie, and he died young and all. And had this, I don't fucking know, this delusion of kind of an old blues musician. And so I do drugs and I drink, but man, I've got music in my soul. I might look white, but deep down, I'm a black man. Because I got the blues. Now, the issue or the problem I have with that is I'm absolutely tone deaf and can't play a damn instrument. But I managed to I managed to steal a penny whistle. And I went off, trotted off to the council in Southampton with my penny whistle and got a busker's licence. Which was free. You didn't have to play a note. You didn't have to pay. Just had to say, I want a busk. And they went, yep, and they give me it. So now, I'm a certified musician. Got my instrument. And I've got a licence to say I'm a musician. And what I would do, towards the end, the only way I could earn money, I couldn't steal anymore, I couldn't shoplift anymore, I was crippled with fear. All the shops knew me, and just as soon as I walked in, just come up to me like that. And everywhere I walked around the shop, just followed me like that. Stay here as long as you want, we're just going to follow you all around the shop. It's an easy day for us. So I decided I was going to start busking and share my gift, my music, with the world. And I got this penny whistle, and I would sit there day after day and play it again and again and again. And unfortunately, some would say the tragedy of my musical career was I could only play one goddamn tune. One tune, that's all. And I now know that the God that I know is a funny guy. And he's got an amazing sense of humour. Because the one tune he gave me was The Great Escape. And I would sit there day after day after day. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. And again, and again, and again. And if somebody walked by and chucked a couple, I had an old manky flat cap on the floor. If they chucked a couple of coppers in there, the love I would feel for these people. Thank you so much. Thank you. Jesus loves you. Do 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 do. But if somebody didn't, if somebody dared to walk by and steal my gift to them, and steal my music, the hatred, the resentment, the evil, black bitterness I would feel for these people was phenomenal. They just walked by me. That's all they did. They just walked by me. And I would plan. I would work out in my head how I was going to track them. I was going to follow them home. I was going to find where these lowlife live, these thieves of my gift. And I was going to wait till 3 o'clock in the morning and I was going to smash every window out of their fucking house and make them pay for what they'd done to me, because they'd all done it to me. Thank you. And this went on and on and on. So mental. It's unbelievable. And I didn't see a thing wrong with it. See, one of the things that I've done since the day I came to Cocaine Anonymous is I have remained passionate about service in our fellowship. I heard somebody say really early on in my recovery, if you're not giving back to the fellowship of your choice in service, then you might just be a thieving little fucker. And I thought, ooh, that's a bit harsh. You don't even know me. He knew me so well. And I've always remained active in service, and I've always given back. Because I didn't know you were here. Nobody told me. So I did it again and again and again. And the way it happened for me, I didn't know. I couldn't see it anymore. I was so wrapped up in myself. I was so crippled with fear, crippled with anxiety, paralysed with it. So in the dark, so scared, so alone, so hopeless. I couldn't see it anymore. And what happened with me is I got into a fight, not because I'm a good fighter, but because I'm a really, 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 really crap runner. And as a result of this fight, I ended up going to jail. And this is where it changed for me. What happened is, a little while after the incident with the butter and the nasal hair, one of the people in the jail come up to me and said, Dobbo, this is a situation. He said, if you get involved in some sort of recovery, there is a possibility, equal possibility, you'll get parole. And at that very moment, I decided I was to become a recovery god. I was going to get this book here and I was going to study it so that I could quote lines and page numbers, and I could talk about the obsession and the malady and, powerlessness, yes. Oh, hell of a thing, that paralysis. God's what you need in your life, yes, yes. Hell of a thing, that God, hell of a thing. And this is the important thing, and this is the truth. Not because I wanted to recover, but because I wanted to use. I did not come here to recover. I came here to use. And what happened to me is you bunch of sneaky little fellows wound me in with your spiritual trickery. See, you didn't say shit like keep coming back. You said things like stay. You didn't say things like it'll be all right. You said things like, Al, you're fucked. You need to do something about this because you're in trouble. And you didn't turn away from me. No matter what, you didn't turn away from me. You put up with my big book thumping. You put up with my shouting. You put up with my quotes. You put up with my constant fucking ramblings about the history and about this and the other. And you just kept saying, stay here. Stay with us, you'll be all right. Stay with us, you'll be all right. See, anything else, I'd have probably went. I'd have probably legged it. But what you did is for the first time for years, for the first time since Wobbly Bob's Widowmaker, I felt all right. I felt it was all right. Of course I felt uncomfortable. Of course I felt scared. Of course I wondered if I was in the right place. But deep down, you guys touched me and held on to me sufficiently enough for me to stay. Bill Wilson talked about a thing called the language of the heart. And that's what you did to me. And he said, when we share the language of the heart, it's absolutely unmistakable. We link with each other. And that's what you guys did to me. And I stayed here and they let me have my parole and I come out and I went into treatment. My journey wasn't typical. Is anyone in here in treatment? Okay. For those of you in treatment, I absolutely strongly suggest you don't do what I did in treatment. This is really important. Please don't go back tonight and go, that guy in CA said, because this ain't the way to do it. It just happens to have been my experience. My experience of treatment was over a crowded group therapy room. Our eyes met. And everybody said, that's a bad idea. We've been married now for years. Sometimes it seems like about 30 years. We got a beautiful little boy, Jack, and we're really, really happy. It wasn't textbook. But I'll tell you what was happening at that time. She was working with a sponsor. Me and another guy I did treatment with, who's still clean and sober today, would go off to the shed at the bottom of this treatment centre. We'd get this big book. We'd get the 12 and 12. We'd read through CA literature. We'd go to meetings and we would drag our sorry asses to the Tuesday night big book meeting down at St Swithin's roundabout. Week after week. They give me a commitment now once to have the key. I've arrived. They give me a commitment. I've got the key. That means without me there ain't no meeting. I'm surely the most important person. Got a key. 3 weeks in, I forgot the fucking key. Unbelievable. They went, cool, it's no drama. Everybody grabbed their big books. We trotted off onto the green up above the cliff tops in Bournemouth. We sat in a big circle, and this meeting happened. There and then. And we went round and we read a bit of the big book. And the Tuesday night big book meeting went on. Winter that year, there was power cuts in Bournemouth. All the lights went down, big blackout in Bournemouth. All the people in that group started phoning each other. Everybody turned up with fucking candles. We set up the candles like this. The more blind among us, like Brian, like this. We had the meeting. The Tuesday night big book meeting happened. They gave me the commitment for the stereo once as well. They didn't fucking give me it twice. Forgot that as well. No drama. We'll read the damn thing. We'll read the thing. Shelley Road. Turned up there. No key, couldn't get in. Sat out in the car park. Again, sat out in that dusty old car park out the side of there in a circle. People walking by, seeing things like that. Just imagine. What? The cliff tops in Bournemouth, walking past there on a summer's night like this, and there's about, it was a busy meeting, you know? Big round circle of people all like this with big books. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Hundreds, thousands of men and women who have recovered. See, if you want to know what recovered looks like, this is the sort of thing you look for. This is our meeting. This is our home group. This meeting is going to happen. Make no mistake. It is going to happen. If we ain't got keys, we'll sit outside. If we ain't got light, we'll bring our own. If we ain't got the tape or the audios, we'll read it. After years of listening to the Americans and the original ones that I don't know where the hell Brian got them from, but the guy who read it, I swear, as he got about 2/3 through the book, I think he started drinking again. Because, didn't he? He sounded pissed towards the end of it. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. The meeting happened again and again and again. And I swear I don't say this lightly. My recovery was built on those foundations in the beginning. Absolutely built on them. And on study of this book. Because there's a difference between knowing what's in the book, quoting the book and studying it. My experience is the people who have studied this book, you won't hear them talking about it that much. They'll chuck it in now and again. Spiritual trickery, they call it. But you won't hear quote after quote. You'll often go to them for sponsorship and you won't see it. You kind of how do you sponsor them? Sponsor out the big book? Where's your big book? I don't need it. There was a wonderful old bedwetter. He died a few years ago. A guy by the name of Mark Houston. Real cool dude. If you're looking for God's agents, Mark was one of them, I believe. And he said, if every big book in the world disappeared now, could you still sponsor? And he went on to say, if you can't, you might have no business sponsoring people now. See, what he was talking about was the importance of study. The importance of learning what's in here so that can aid what you're passing on. Not so you can just read it to someone. If you're going to just read it to someone, just give them a book and say, go and read that. And you'll be done. It's not about that. It's about the language of the heart. The language of the heart. I don't read this book or study this book so I can work through the steps. I read this book and study this book so I can take other people through the steps more effectively. So I can add to my experience my personal experience, the experience of hundreds of thousands that have gone before, whose experience is in here. So important. So important. Don't let other people read your big books for you. For fuck's sake. Please. People drop like flies because they think that they'll be all right because they can quote a couple of things out of the big book and they've listened to 5 Chris Raymer shares and can quote them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a huge fan of Chris Raymer. I really am. But get your own experience. Get your own experience. So I come here, I do this stuff, I drag my sorry ass along to you guys. I turn up where the likes of Bri have set up, and they had their little tables in circles, and I sit there terrified, and you say stay. And I get hooked in with a sponsor, and he loves and cares enough to deal with me appropriately. Now, appropriately for me might not necessarily be appropriately for the next person. But for me, it was, Al, you really need to shut the fuck up and just do some stuff. Because you sound great, but you ain't actually doing bugger all. So how about you try and do some stuff as well? And I did that, and my life got different. Mostly good, very different. And so things started happening, and you know, the wife that I'd found in the treatment centre, someone had said to me about looking for a partner, a wife for me specifically, or a partner in recovery and in treatment centres. He said, this was before I landed there, he said, you need to remember 2 things and 2 things only when you're looking for a woman in the rooms. First, the odds are extremely good. And I thought, nice, I can roll with this one, because I'm the kind of guy who likes it when the odds are good. I'm at advantage, he said. Secondly, the goods are extremely odd. Please let's remember the anonymity statement when we leave here, those of you who know my wife. So that was cool, and what started happening is I worked through the steps, and I started the constant study, working and reworking of the steps through the big book. And despite myself, I found myself starting to be hopelessly honest. I started getting halfway through a lie and going, oh, sorry, I've got to stop, I'm lying. And my head's going, what? Shush! I started to get the concept of working for a living and turning up for work every day and not stealing from the person that I was working for. Now, these might seem normal to some people, but this was an alien concept to me. Yet despite that, I kept doing it. I kept doing it. I kept working and reworking the steps, and we started to work through them with my sponsor, and for me it was a very quick process. He realised that my ass was kind of on fire, and I didn't have the luxury of much time. I'd had a little bit of clean time in the prison. I'd come out with quite a lot of words and page numbers and one-liners, and I was kind of sinking fast. They'd done, in the treatment thing I'd done in the jail, they'd done a similar job on me as they did to Robin. They'd kind of like, stay and be a peer mentor for a while. Don't mind if I do. Hellish, that's step 1. Oh, hellish thing, that's the powerlessness. Oh. They put me in a position, idiots. They put me in a position where I was kind of grading people's step work on whether they would pass or fail and move on to the next part of the treatment programme. I was like 3 months clean and as mad as a badger. Insane. And they were going, you're great, you are. Yeah. Well, perhaps I am. Perhaps I am. And I started working through the steps with my first sponsor, and he was quite he was quite quick and direct in addressing that issue with me. And we had words. Well, we didn't have words. He had words, several, loud, abrupt. He was very rude at times with words with me. And we worked through the steps and kind of went off. We did 1, 2, and 3, and off he sent me to do a step 4. I said to him, how long have I got? Thinking, 6 months for someone like me, because, there ain't going to be many resentments. But when I get to my sexual inventory, boy, that's going to take some time. Reams and reams. That proved to be a lie, I tell you. So anyway, he said, it's up to you. How long do you want to be sick? Because you are, Fuck's sake. So a week later, I sit down with him and we kind of go through the process. I remember it vividly. I sat down, I had sheets written out like this, and I read through them like that. He sat looking at me, not unlike the way Robin is now, actually. like he knew more than I did, and I felt really uncomfortable. I read through like that and mumbled a few, and then put it down like that and went to the next one. He went, pass me that sheet you just put on the floor. And I give it to him. He went, look at that. You've missed one. Give it back to me. And he said, I'll tell you what I'll do to help you with this, Al. After every sheet now, when you read it, just give it to me so I can double check you don't miss any. See, this is why this works. This is why this worked. He knew. He knew how people like me operate because he was people like me. He knew how I just about scraped the courage to put that on there, but couldn't find the faith to speak to him about it. That's why he was there. That's why this is the deal that works. That's why the language of the heart is key to what we do. Key to what we do. So we work through the steps, and I have worked and reworked the steps since that day. Constantly. I'm very active in sponsorship in all areas, both in people that I sponsor and with my sponsor. I phone him every week. Wednesday 5:30, I phone him. Simple as that. And it's funny because I seen him last night and we hooked up and we had a cuppa and we kind of talked for a while. And as he was going, he said about phoning tomorrow night. Wednesday night. And I said, you know what? The chances are nothing in the world's going to have happened, but I'm going to have a burning desire to phone him on Wednesday night at 5:30. Because I do. Because it's important to me. Because left to my own devices, I cannot be fucking trusted. I just can't be trusted. So I need to have things in place. I need to have a sponsor I'm accountable to. And once in a great while, I don't remember to phone him because I'm clever at remembering. I remember because I got a reminder on my phone. And once in a while, I'll forget it. And do you know what he does? He'll ring me later. It's the coolest thing in the world that he knows I'll ring. And if I don't, he'll kind of give me a call. You all right, Al? Yeah. All right, cool. Just that. Such a fucking cool deal. So I work through steps, work and rework steps. What are we doing to? 10 past, is it? 5 past. What now? Oh, ran out of time. A couple of years ago, my dad brought me up for a while, and through my drinking and my using, he had the sense to get away from me and did. And for years we had no contact. And a few years into recovery, I managed to track him down. I managed to go and see him, and I managed to make amends to him. And it was, as the youth of today say, heavy. It was heavy. It was an incredible thing. And what happened was I got to spend some time with him, and it was really, really cool. And then he started getting ill. Like I said earlier, drank all his life, smoked all his life, stubborn son of a bitch. Geordie, come from just outside Newcastle, sort of hard drinking, pigeon racing, hard smoking Geordie lad. And eventually it took its toll on him, and he started getting ill. And over a period of about a year, he got iller and iller, and it became very apparent that he was dying. And I would go back and forwards up to a place called Stroud, up by Gloucester, where he lived. I'd go back and forwards up there, and I'd go and see him, and I'd kind of load him into his wheelchair, and I'd trundle him off round to the pub and prop him up against the bar in his wheelchair and kind of fill him full of sloe gin. His sloe gin and cider were kind of his drinks. Man of great taste. And get a few drinks and trundle him back. And the last time that I was able to do that, I went and got him and loaded him into the wheelchair and trundling him off round the pub. It was just me and him. Michelle and Jack hadn't come up that time, and rolling round, he said, "You all right, boy?" I said, yeah, good, Dad, good. He said, "Mrs. and Jack all right?" I said, yeah, Dad, yeah. "Still sober, are you, boy?" I said, yeah. "Still doing that 12 steps thingamajig and that recovery bloody thing and leaving the beer alone, are you?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, yeah. As I'm trundling along, he's got quite old and frail by now. He turned and he looked at me with this glint in his eye. Greatest fucking deal on earth. He said, "Boy?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, yeah." He said, "You're a fucking disgrace to our family, you are, my boy." It's not only us that recover. It's not only us. Our friends, our families, our workmates, our colleagues. See, do this stuff. Get hooked up with God. Call him whatever you want. My missus calls him Bruce. I don't care. Get hooked up with the God that you know and you love. And I absolutely guarantee you it will leak out into all areas of your life. The darkness and the evil that seeped out of every part of me when I sat on that floor with that damn fucking penny whistle is gone. Through the process of surrender and working the 12 steps of Cocaine Anonymous out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have been allowed the privilege of recovering in Cocaine Anonymous. I've been allowed that by the God that I love and by you, bunch of sneaky bastards. It's the easier, softer option. Please, please, please. Don't worry about keep coming back. Just stay here. Thanks for listening to me, guys.
Right on, my friend. Thank you, Alan D, so much from the UK. Listen, folks, don't forget to tune into our other shows right here at take12radio.com on your internet dial. You can go there by take12, the number 12, radio.com, or typing in the word take12radio.com. It doesn't matter. You'll get there, download our shows, burn CDs, make copies, share them with people. Listen, the lie is dead, my friends. We do and can recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Origins Recovery Centers, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.